Hello and welcome to That Is Nice. Now get ready for it. At first blush, the assembly line seems like a great idea. However, there's a trade-off to the assembly line. That trade-off is at the individual level. And the individual sunk cost really is optimism. Now, grains of sand make a heap, though optimism is the tool that helps move society forward. Just keep in mind throughout this entire podcast, sleep does not help if your soul is tired. So let's see, how did the assembly line kill optimism? Well, in 1913, Henry Ford assembled the first assembly line, and this cut cost, it cut costs as well, but it cut the time to make a car from 12 hours to now it's 2.5 hours to produce one car. Assembly lines have some goods to them. They made it possible to start selling millions of units. So instead of 30, you could now sell a couple 100,000. Efficiency increased by giving small tasks to the individual. You know how an assembly line works. You do one thing all day long, which boosts efficiency. Most people, though, who work on that assembly line do not see the product from beginning to end. Is this good? Is this bad? What does this do? Well, the problem with this is it eliminates meaning in their work. It eliminates curiosity in their work. It's hard to find meaning in something where you're just screwing something on or putting something together or moving this part to this assembly line. It's hard to find meaning in that because your task is maybe a two-step procedure. And without this curiosity, without this meaning, it's hard to find any sort of innovation because you're not thinking, oh, how can I do this better? Because if you have a career in which there's a lot you need to do and there's a lot you need to oversee, you try to think of ways to make it easier for yourself. And making it easier for yourself will make it easier for other people. And when you find a way that's innovative, it feels good. But you don't have that curiosity. You don't have that when you are just doing a task all day. And this sort of makes the individual the company. And how it does this is if somebody works on an assembly line, they go, oh, what do you do? You say, oh, I work for Chevy. Because if you explain what you do, just imagine that. You explain, oh, I put a screw in a part. Oh, did you do anything else? Then I go on lunch break and then I go and do it again. There's not a lot of meaning behind that. So the shift towards rapid output also is where management started. And it's how we also sort of develop punishments and measurements. We would use these things. We would use these to provide markers, quotas, to see how well you do your job, how much output you are. This is sort of where people became just a number to a corporation. So I'm really hungry. Nella wafer. I don't know. Turn this into a mukbang or mukbang, whatever it's called right now. Maybe that's the next transition that I make. Just doing mukbangs, whatever they're called. Which I don't understand the concept of a mukbang, but people watch it, and I'm sure it's probably a lot easier. It's probably a lot easier to do than reading about assembly lines all day today. So they give you these measurements of performance. So you have these quotas. These quotas are actually called KPIs, is the acronym for them, and it's key performance indicators. This measures performance, which will help a company elevate its success. So it'll measure the performance of the employee and other activities that the company engages in. So this leads us to today, to modern time. We just time traveled. Here we are, 2019. If the way we measure the quality of an employee is KPI, then what's to come from that? So, I mean, there's always going to be, you have to do it better. You have to do it faster. There's going to be the pressure. Yeah, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be productive. But you pay that employee. They work fast, but they can only work so many hours a day. We need to rest. We need to eat. So when KPI becomes the standard, we're measured as inputs to a company. So you're an input to a company. Your efforts are inputs to the company, and they care about what you're also outputting. So here's the problem with this. That means that if somebody else, possibly something else, comes along that can have a much more efficient KPI than what yours is, being a corporation, your goal is to make money. Your goal is to make as much profit as you possibly can. Having high KPI means you're going to have high profit. You're going to go to the alternative. And you're seeing this today. You see it with factories becoming automated. You're seeing it with, say it a lot, grocery stores becoming automated. There's no career. There's no careers. Because when we design a system that is measured by output, it's not sustainable because you, as a human being, can only output so much. Vanilla wafer gets caught in your gums a little bit. And so we want to put out as much as we can. You want supply to meet demand. That's good, yes, for food and you name it. The problem that I see there is, this might be kind of a unpopular opinion, but when I was a kid, I used to go to the store and I would buy baseball cards. I collected baseball cards. And I would always get really excited when I see one of like a good player, or if I see one that's like reflective and shiny, it looks cooler. It doesn't look like the others. So I would go ask my parents. I'd be like, "Oh, is this a good one? Is it worth any money?" Thinking I was going to be like a 7-year-old millionaire. And they just told me as it is. They said, "No, none of them are worth any money. Everything's mass produced now." That was heartbreaking to hear as a kid. But it's the truth. So let's look at it like this. The most valuable baseball card is honus wagner. One sold for $3,120,000 in 2016. That card's from the 1900s. But you're not going to find any new cards that are worth any money. Because in 1980, companies realized that they need to meet demand for these cards to increase profit. And they've ramped up production. Now there is no valuable card because if there's a card of a good player, say 1915, there's only going to be a couple people who have it. But now there's going to be, if it's made today, there's going to be everybody who has 5 of them. Back to the honus wagner card. There was between like 60 and 200 made. And if you still have one today, they're worth a bunch of money. But now, each individual will have like 60 or 200 of something, a card, if they still do that. So here's a little bit of a thought. Truth creates conflict. And corruption produces stability. We encourage things to be truthful because we think truthful is good. But at the same time, we vehemently deny the conflict that truth has. For example, there was a study done about IQ scores among different ethnicities. That caused a lot of hysteria. That caused a lot of conflict. That caused a lot of debate. Caused a lot of anger. But that's the truth. That some ethnicities perform better at an IQ test than others. But we vehemently will deny that and shut that down. So why do we teach truth? People talk about how corrupt the government is. We want stability, but we don't acknowledge the corruption involved in maintaining that stability. You know, you have to play politics. There's backdoor deals. The reason why you're not paying $20 for gasoline is because of things like war, things like deals with countries that we would prefer not to make deals with. It's a little bit corrupt, but a good thing comes out of it. Now, if we were being truthful, being good, we would not go to war. We would not make deals with these countries. And you would not be paying $2.60 for a gallon of gasoline either. Point being, the platform that civilization today requires, these new methods to perform globally are more of a necessity than anything. When you're competing, you're going to want any advantage you can possibly get. And we have limitations as a country. We have a minimum wage. China, they'll pay them whatever they feel like paying them. We have to compete with that. So when you have to pay somebody a certain amount, still make a profit and do better than company B who produces the same thing in China, then you're going to go to machines. Because if you don't, there's no way for you to fail. It's the equivalent to being a featherweight and having to box a heavyweight. But you're also a featherweight whose coach only lets them practice for 30 minutes a day. So you're not even that skilled. So you're probably gonna just juice up, take some roids, because that's the only way you're gonna be able to compete. And you know, we need these things to perform globally. It seems like out of a lot of good behavior comes a lot of unsustainable things. A lot of things, if you like what happens, usually it's unsustainable. Like, if you like getting drunk, it's not sustainable to be super hammered all of your life, because you're going to have an issue or two. You're going to have maybe a little bit of, what is it called? Cirrhosis? Or is that the skin thing? Cirrhosis. You might get a little bit of cirrhosis. We enjoy it, but it's nice. But it's not doing much. Now, if you exercise, it sucks to do. But then you will probably not get cirrhosis because you're exercising instead of drinking. It's the same thing with rationing materials for war efforts. It sucks to not be able to get as many of some product that you want, but in return you get security. So that's pretty beneficial. And here's the question. And this is a question I would like to know other answers on. In the next few years, talent might not even be necessary to have. You know, if someone's talented, let's say they have advantages. Let's say they're stronger, so they can say they move furniture for a living. That is their job. They move furniture. They're stronger, so they can move it faster and move more furniture than your average Joe. But let's say they make a robot. Let's just say Boston Dynamics decides to make a little robot that moves furniture for you. But instead of carrying one at a time, it can carry two. So now it's twice as efficient as you were. Oh, and also this robot doesn't need a break after a couple hours of work. This robot just works. It's a tank. Now you're not going to be moving furniture very long. What are you going to do now? Probably nothing. And then you also have things like genetic engineering. So if I wanted to be more muscular, which I don't even think is a possibility, because I've reached peak physique for humanity, so I don't know if this is possible, but let's say some phenomenon happens and I need to be more jacked. I could get genetically engineered. Let's say I want to look better. I could get genetically engineered. Let's say I want to be immune from getting measles, HPV, getting any disease that you would need a shot for. And now I don't even have to get shots. I don't even need to go to the doctor to get shots. Let's say I want to be able to eat any food I want, as much as I want all day. Well, then let's just engineer my genetics to where my metabolism is insane. Then I can do that. That's not so much of a talent, but if I wanted to, I could. So you can change your genetics, and this is something that will be happening in the next 5 years, and then everybody's going to be changing their genetics because it's going to catch on. Because who wouldn't want to have better genetics? And people conform. So if everybody is doing it, and this is the new thing you need to do to work in society, to be functional and to be a good social member of society, then you're going to get it too. And your neighbor's going to get it. And everybody's going to get it. And before you know it, Keith Richards is going to live till he's like 150. So when there's things like robots, let's say they just take up like every job that there possibly is. They're going to do every job there possibly is better than any human could. So it's irrelevant. Your resume would be irrelevant. Your experience would be irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Be like this robot's maybe 6 months old, and let's say you've been working in an industry for 25 years. They're going to look at your resume and go, oh, wow. Oh, we have to pay you? You think we're going to give you a salary? Nope. Oh, you need benefits? You get sick? Oh, no, we can't be doing that. That's too expensive. This robot, electricity is 15 cents an hour for it. We're just going to do that. And that's what happens. That's what happens. If you enjoyed this, and if you want one that's a little bit more smooth, a little bit more in depth, then I would go and check out my last podcast with a special guest. This one relates to the one that I did today, but it's a lot more in depth. It's called How Technology Gave Everyone a Gambler's Mindset. So thank you for watching. Subscribe and join. The next one's going to be a little bit better because I'm going to get a lot better at this individual stuff. I'm going to start doing it a little bit more often. And as always, have a good night, ladies and gents.